Great. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the Stockbridge Library, Museum, and Archives online poetry season. We are now starting season 4. This is our first reading in the new season. Our theme this season is Sparks in the Dark. And rather than explaining that a lot, I want to introduce our poetry host, John Gillespie, and our wonderful poet who'll be reading with us today. And I will let them talk a little bit more about this year's theme and how we got there. John Gillespie has worked as a chief financial officer for several nonprofits. He got acquainted with the Stockbridge Library as a member of our board of trustees, where he served as president. He is a great fan of poetry, and at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, he had the great idea to start this program. We thought we'd do a few sessions. Here we are, season 4. John, we're so grateful. Also grateful to have Traci O'Day with us today. Traci is joining us, I think, for the 3rd time. Is that right?
Second time.
Traci is an American poet living in Jersey, not New Jersey, but Jersey, UK. And she's the author of 2 poetry collections, Waving from Ashore Press in 2021 and Restricted Movement from Scotland Street Press, also in 2021. And she received a seed funding grant from Art House Jersey for that. There is an audio book for Restricted Movement, and Traci's poems have appeared in various publications, including BBC Radio Jersey, Poetry, Poetry Daily, Literary Matters, the Hopkins Review, and the Jersey Evening Post, among others. In 2023, Scotland Street Press will publish Traci's feminist interpretations of Baudelaire's Le Fleur de Mal, which I'm sure we all look forward to. Traci, thank you for joining us. John, Traci, I will turn the program over to the 2 of you.
Great. Thank you so much.
So for our listeners, many of you that will look at this on YouTube, our theme this year is Igniting Sparks in the Dark. And it speaks to the power of poetry to encourage us to act, that will inspire us to move forward from the dark, as I say, towards the light. Poetry will illuminate the way. You know, my favorite poem is Mary Oliver's The Journey. The quote, the first lines, "One day you finally knew what you had to do and began." Every time I read that, Traci, I want to basically just run outside, run down the street. Now, watching me run down the street would be really scary. So I'm basically just going to stay in the room here. But I think poetry, you know, I just finished a week at a Padre Kotuma shop at Omega with 130 other people, which was totally amazing. I wish we could have captured all the poems from the attendees. It was amazing. It was poetry nirvana. You know, just the power of people to, you know, create the written word and inspire us. You know, so with that, you know, just to start off, I'd like to get your take on, you know, how poetry, you know, can encourage us.
I mean, I think for me, poetry has always been alchemy, turning lead into gold. And I think this theme really speaks to that. I know that when you sort of proposed this theme, you were talking about how, you know, things can be quite dark right now. And especially if you read the news, there's a lot going on that's really depressing. And I mean, there's murder going on. So it's the worst thing that could be happening. And I think that people turn to poetry in the hardest times for that light, or at least for some sort of empathy, some sort of resonance, to feel that they're not alone, to feel that actually there is beauty in this world. And I do think that for me, writing is how I get through those hard emotions. And writing is how I am able to process those difficulties and the you know, the sadness, the anger, etc. I think that it's by turning it into something beautiful and turning it into a piece of art is how I tackle those emotions.
So what have you been working on, let's say, over the last 6 or 9 months?
I'm mostly working on a novel. So
Oh boy. Kathy, okay, our program is ending now. We should be stuck with poetry. We're no, I'm kidding. I will say I
but
love that you're diversifying your, you
but
know,
I
your
can't help but write in iambic pentameter. So the novel is being written in iambic pentameter, but then I will take it all out. So when someone's reading it, they'll just see prose. But I know
yeah.
that I've written it in iambic pentameter because I can't write any other way. So but it also lets me pay attention to the language on a syllabic level, which I wouldn't do if I were just writing like an essay or straight prose. So it's probably taking me longer than most people. But it makes it a pleasure, and it is still a poem, but no one needs to know that.
So what would the theme of the book be?
Um, I mean, it's I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but it's about
Oh
healing.
boy.
So it's about healing. It's about healing. So if we're talking about sparks in the dark, it's about finding those sparks in the dark.
That's great. So let me just ask you, I mean, that you're doing iambic pentameter in a novel. Is just, I don't know, you're climbing like Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Olympus all at the same time or something. So no, good. I applaud your courage to climb the mountain. But during this time, have there any new poems arrived just from this process of you writing about healing?
I mean, there are always new poems, John. Come on. I mean,
Well, I didn't
that's
know, like the corn harvest is already over up here. The potatoes are almost done. So I never know where the poetry harvest is.
I've definitely been writing new poems. I wasn't really planning on reading any today, but I can do a little search and find some.
Oh, no, no, just I
No, I'm
always
happy
think
to.
it's
It's actually fun because I haven't even thought about reading these, and it's no, it's fun to read. These will be poems that haven't been published before, so it's just sort of fun to look at these and hear what you think.
yeah. So why don't you read a
Um,
few poems, even if it's from, I don't want to disrupt
no,
your.
that's fine. So this one is, I mean, you can apply, I think, any of my poems to this theme because it's about finding beauty in uh in unexpected places. So igniting sparks in the dark. This one is called The Night, and it's night with a K. The night. Fish bones on the bank with ragged armor scales. Sand is threadbare, golden velvet peeking from between each link. I run my fingers over it to feel the tunic beneath the rusty mail. The gills, segmented like folds, are still intact. They're free from sand and almost sanitized, sharp. They don't look made for breathing, made for shredding, like cuts or razor blades. What should I shred? Poems about you, so I don't look at them, admit that you're the thing I need to write about? The gills are not as sharp as I imagined. I can touch them without cuts. I reach in through the chinks. There you go. That's a new one.
Nice, nice, very nice.
And yeah, I have some more. So I picked out some. I was talking to a friend of mine today who's uh, in the oncology ward in UK. So he's fighting cancer right now, and I told him what the theme was at Igniting Sparks in the Dark, and he wrote, "Remember that flashing light is also flashing dark." And I liked that. It was actually really resonated with the first poem that I had chosen for today, which is a tiny little poem. It's called Blackout, and it's from Waving.
Yeah, right.
Turn out the lights. Let moths live normal lives. Days become nights, flights, purposeless dives. So it's
Wait,
just a
say that
tiny
again.
little one.
That happened too quick. Say that again,
I'll
please.
do it again. Turn out the lights. Let moths live normal lives. Days become nights, flights, purposeless dives.
Hmm. Very nice.
So what happens to a moth if you turn out the lights? Like they're just happy to just run around and not keep bashing themselves into the light over and over again. So that's where sometimes you need to turn out those sparks in the dark and just let it be dark.
Yeah, maybe that's a good message for us. We ought to stop banging our heads against the wall.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have another little shorty, uh, sort of similar about the idea of just looking at the dark and seeing what the dark has to offer. And this one is definitely about seeing things in the dark. Rambo pressed his palms against his eyelids hard. Among the tessellated spheres, he saw a hybrid beast, a lion, scorpion, and owl. And its eye was its heart, and its heart was its eye. That's one of my sort of weirder poems. But just the idea of like what you can see when you close your eyes, because it's never actually pitch black. Like, right now I'm seeing, well, sort of like a heart-shaped thing and maybe
Yeah.
like some blocks. You can see stuff
Yeah.
when you close your eyes. So just the idea of like what were these poets seeing when they pressed their hands against their eyes? And again, it plays with the theme of seeing something in the dark, finding that beauty with your eyes closed.
Nice. Very nice.
Do you want me to keep going?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm just
I've
writing.
got
I'm just
more.
writing. I'm just writing a few notes. I like to write notes.
So you know that I live by the sea, and
You should
I've
tell. You
lived
should
on.
tell it. You should tell everyone because you're not in where I lived in Jersey. You're in the real Jersey.
No,
I
I'm
was
in
in
Old Jersey, so I
old
can show
Jersey.
you. Here, let's go on a little field trip. So I live in Old Jersey, which is an island in the English Channel, and this is,
Wow.
well, that's
Wow.
my view. There's my porch. So tide's coming in right now. So it's a really crazy tidal shift here. It goes out about a mile. So the seascape sort of changes all day long. So I live here and I used to live in the Caribbean. So I'm sort of been this little island person running around island hopping. So a lot of my poems are obviously about the sea. So here's one about when I was snorkeling. And it's again finding something unexpected. And in this case, it's not a spark, but a starfish. The starfish in the seagrass meadow seems to have been made by Nerf. The puffiness and symmetry, the red too red, the nubs for grip. But it is real, alive. Unlike the thumb-sized star I thought age 8, I'd keep inside a sandy plastic cup of ocean. As we rode 3 hours home, I watched it fade from brown to tan to white, its heart the last part to go colorless. So I don't touch this vibrant one, just hope it moves to prove it isn't fake. I'm tricked by surface shadows, blades that jag and sway, an arm lifts up, resettles, puffs the sand. Each thought that's not of you, a victory. So that was my little starfish.
All right.
And this next one is about a garden and finding something unexpected in the garden. The summer garden's growing weeds, obscene zucchinis, and tomatoes spilling seeds. A month has passed since I last walked the rows where only that which wants to spoil grows. Hoping to discover something sweet, I search among the overripe and torn. Between my feet, a watermelon sits, small as a bocce ball. Mismatched markings trick my eye. I think that it's been squashed or cracked. But passed between my palms, it's warm, intact. I bet it can't be edible. But something makes me wonder what I'll find inside. Some weevils, powder, solid rind. I grab the melon, leave the rest to rot. It rolls toward the sink before I cleave the ball in half. The core is organ red. I've lost the bet. I scrape some off the top like frost across a windshield, only it's not cold and tastes like molten honey, gold.
Wow. Very nice.
Thanks. And then I have a couple more from this book, and I'm happy to chat poetry with anyone who wants to talk.
Yeah, I think Kathy will have a few questions.
I'm sure she will. I hope
So,
so. Okay, so this one is about, so Matisse did this painting in 1907 called Blue Nude. He has a lot of blue nudes, but this was the first one, and it was really controversial because it was considered a very unattractive nude, and it inspired um, Picasso, and it inspired, some of the other Fauvists and Cubists because it just really played with perspective and made the nude, which is supposed to be the ideal form, and it was an arabesque, so it's supposed to be this beautiful reclining nude, but instead it made her sort of distorted. And like in Chicago, they burnt replicas of it because they thought it was so offensive to the art world. Anyway, it's in Baltimore. It's on display at the Baltimore Museum of Art, and I've seen it my whole life. And I just wanted to write about it. So I wrote about it from the perspective of the blue nude. So blue nude looks in the mirror. He made my scars look like an afterthought, flicks of his palette knife. Mismatched nipples are swirls he pinkied on. They still look wet. He didn't veil my scoliotic hips, but stretched them out. My map of veins is gone, but he applied the tint across my skin. So again, I chose that one because of the whole idea of finding beauty in what others, well, I mean, definitely at the time considered, to be something sort of awful and scandalous, and just having her sort of reflect back and say, wow, like he's made me look really beautiful and the opposite of what everyone thought.
yeah, and I think that was a running story in the Times over the last couple of weeks. Maybe it was because of, that story resurrected itself
I didn't know
with
that.
with I think a backstory about when it first came out, people were going crazy and they were protesting. They didn't want to go into the museum. I was like, really? So,
Right. Because now it just seems like, we're used to it. It's just
yeah.
it's just a great painting.
Yeah, I
So the
think at the
last one,
time there weren't a lot of I just 1 second.
no, go
I
ahead.
think part of the article there weren't a lot of declining nude paintings. So it was kind of you know, it was breaking through the new territory and it just made people crazy. So
No, they did. There were a lot of protests about it. Sorry, I also have a cough and I'm surprised I haven't erupted yet. So if I do, I
that's all
apologize.
right.
So this last poem, uh, last Thursday was National Poetry Day in the UK. They only have a day. We have a whole month. So I the theme was refuge, and I was teaching a workshop based on an art exhibition called There's No Place Like Home, and then we performed poems on Friday. So I had this idea of refuge and home, and obviously with everything that's going on in the world, with people being displaced and people being killed in their homes and people murdering um, because they feel that their home has been taken, and just this whole idea of home resonated. So we had a lot of poems about home. And you asked if I was writing new poems. Well, I always write new poems because I always run these workshops. But this is an older poem about home. When she stays here with me, I make her feel at home. Indulge her taste for floral prints and accent pillows, drapes and bedding sets offset by rugs of yellow, violet, green. But when she heads back to those scuffed and marble hallways that construct her life away from me, I pack her frilly things, revert to minimalist hues of blank white tarps, bare windows, empty canvases, and sculpted trees with limbs that reach for Zen, not Zeus. It's when she's gone that I'm at home.
When she's gone, yeah.
There
I
you
think we
are.
had guests like that. And we didn't do the drapes, but there were a lot of other accoutrements. And it was like, I think there was someone here for 2 weeks. It was like, oh, they're going.
Stockbridge Library is asking, who is the she? Well, actually, I originally wrote this poem about Persephone and Demeter. So it was the idea of Demeter sort of loving it. It's spring when Persephone's there, and everything is beautiful and everything is colorful. And then when she leaves, everything is sort of autumn and winter and bare. And it's this idea of feeling at home with the least amount of things and just sort of feeling at home in yourself and not needing the flowers, not needing the scents or the all the extras, just being comfortable in your own skin or in just the skin of the bare earth. Thanks for asking.
Nice, nice. So let's take a little break and have Kathy Lucia, who's a very long time friend, or Wendy ask some questions.
Sure, I have a couple, Tracy, as John expected. One is just about that practice in iambic pentameter, and I'm just curious because you've been writing it for a long time, and I love the idea that it has become so natural for you that you can't write prose almost. I mean, how long did it take you to get into that feeling like that was home, that was what was natural for you?
I don't know. It just sort of started happening. Um, I wrote a poem at least 20 years ago. The poem is, each time I try to write my head, I end up writing feet instead. So just, yeah, the idea that I can't avoid it. So that it's been at least 20 years that I've been doing this. And anytime I try to write something in prose, it just feels so stale. I just think I'm bad at writing in prose. Like I don't have a gift of sentence structure or sort of rearranging sentences in a way that I can rearrange syllables and meter. So because that is my home, because that's where I'm most comfortable, that's what I revert to. And thinking about like this book that I'm writing, that's a healing process. Yeah, I couldn't imagine writing it in any other form just because I don't think I write well in prose.
So interesting. And this is just one other small question that could have a big answer, and I'm not looking for you to like elaborate completely, but I noticed that more than one poem was showing that the writer was avoiding thinking about a you, and I liked that because I think a lot of times we write in order to get through a situation that might involve a you. But is that the same you? Is that a frequent idea through the book, or did you just happen to pick two that had that in it?
No, I mean that's definitely a frequent one through the book. I lost someone, and that was sort of like a definitely writing about it is my healing process. So you know, each thought that's not of you a victory is just that idea that I was able to not think about you for long enough to look at this starfish. So that's just when you lose someone who's really close to you, I mean, sometimes you don't want to lose them. So you want them there and you want them present, but also it's really sad. So the fact that you can be in the moment without thinking about that person, like it's definitely something that I fight because I write about her all the time to feel close to her. And then when I stop writing about her, I feel like I'm not with her anymore because when I'm writing about her, I feel like she's there.
Yeah.
And then when I don't write about her, she's gone. And because in that time period when I was writing about her, it's like I was really reliving those times. And then it like wake up and it's like waking up from a dream and you're like, oh shit, she's dead. Um, so that, yes, there's that. Good question.
Thank you. I relate to all of that, so I appreciate it.
Kathy, anything else?
So how about whatever happened to Graham?
Graham,
I think
poor
Graham,
Graham.
he already had 2 pictures with his phone. I think he disintegrated into some molecular space event. He self-destructed.
He
Yeah.
might have. He might have gotten caught in some time warp.
Yeah,
The two
that's what
canceled each
happens.
other out.
Yeah, when you're in Jersey off the shore, there's a little Twilight Zone effect that things can, get rearranged. That was funny when he was on both at the same time. I was like, how does he
How
do
is
that?
that possible?
Oh boy.
Do you have a question, John? Because that's all I have at the moment. But
Yeah,
if we hear more poems, I'll come up with some more.
yeah, I was gonna say, Kathy, you've got a quotient, a quota to meet. So you're once again, you're gonna have to stay in poetry detention after this class. Uh, so Traci, if you can share, because your prose book are there like 2 or 3 main, thoughts or areas of inspection that you're healing? Healing can take place in so many dimensions. Is there one? Are you trying to play out 1, 2, or 3 themes, or are you just letting it, flow as it arrives?
Yeah, I'm not really thinking about theme too much on this one. I'm just, um, yeah, just letting it do its job. Letting, the more you write, the more you heal. So I, I mean, it's not really a journal, so it's not that kind of healing, but I'm taking a trauma that happened and making it a lot worse. And I think that's one way to heal is by sort of making it hyperbolic and making it so, yeah, just so much worse than it actually was. So that when you look at your own trauma, you're just sort of like, oh, well, mine wasn't that bad.
And it sounds like it's pretty open-ended. So you're not constraining yourself with like it has to be done by December 31st or something like that.
I mean, I would love for it to be done by December 31st.
Well, Kathy and I will get you on the phone every week for an update. So Traci, not your new work, because I think part of that is that I always feel like it should sometimes have a birth in another place. But are there other poems you could read from one of either of your books?
Yep. Um, so sticking to the theme, I was looking for poems that talked about light and dark. And this one is called Echocardiogram. So if you've ever seen an echocardiogram, it's just like
Yeah.
black, and then you get these bits of light. So that's what this talks about. Echocardiogram. I'm topless on the padded table in the hospital, my back to the sonographer, my face towards the screen. The gel-coated wand gives me goosebumps. Nipples harden. In front of me, black screen at first, and swish. Like breathing with a scuba tank, the sound both drowns out and amplifies all background noise. The black changes to masses of gray dots, like when I jump into a swimming pool and only see the bubbles that I've made until they clear. Then there it is, my heart pumping on its own. One grinchy hand clapping sarcastically. Well done, you. You've lived another day. She moves the wand to show some Venus flytrap jaws with ragged edges, chomping blood. Then the pulmonic valve, a bulging, wrinkly, blinking robot vulture eye, organically mechanical. Its view is something I will never see. At last, in the second chamber, some joy. Two kids at patty cake, with nowhere else to go, playing their uninterrupted game on a loop until I die. This is the closest I will ever get to an obstetric ultrasound. This caged heart is mine and never leaving me.
Wow.
Wow.
It's almost like an ekphrastic poem. You know, using what you're seeing on the screen as a piece of art. I love the descriptions. It really makes us see it.
That's really funny. I love that. I love imagining my ultrasound as a work of art on the screen. That's thank you.
Well, Kathy, here's Tracy at the ultrasound saying to this doctor, wait, I've got a couple lines here. Can we stop for a minute? I got the two talking and they're going back, okay, let's go back to the ultrasound. Yeah.
I honestly told the stenographer, I was like, I'm writing a poem about this because it started just happening in my head as I was there. And I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna write a poem about this. I should probably send it to the hospital.
Yes.
Yeah, I just had a bone scan. I wish I had known about this because then I could have just, had some kind of running commentary, while they were doing that. It wasn't much. It took like 5 minutes, but I should have. Tracy, next time my doctor visit, I'm going to be prepared for poetic expression.
Do it. Do a voice note while it's happening.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, wait a sec, wait. I have a thought here. After you talk about my symptoms, no, okay.
I'm not sure I can find it, Tracy, but I was connected to a market that was specifically for the connection between poetry and medicine. If I can find it, I will share it with you.
Oh, please do. I would love that.
Okay, we got another chapter for the healing book.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Get your echocardiogram while you're writing a poem.
Physical healing. Oh yeah, hospital poems it's a whole genre. I've got to write more, but that means spending more time at the hospital, which is not ideal for anyone.
I think it's better to look out your window.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
The sea poems, a little bit better.
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, Wendy's reminding me, Dr. Owen Lewis did a poetry and medicine program at the Stockbridge Library, really around narrative medicine. And, narrative medicine keeps growing. And I keep reading more and more about it. So I could probably find maybe the YouTube or make a connection for you if you wanted an introduction.
I mean, I just love to watch it and see what they came up with. Thanks.
Okay.
And then this next one is again finding poetry in unexpected places. It's called Of the Mouth and Lungs. It's from Restricted Movement. The last one was as well. On a cocktail napkin in the dining room, he left a coffee ring, a wrinkled circle on a paper square. I wish he'd forged a dieternal mark on book-matched oak veneer, a stain I couldn't polish out with pledge, that branded thoughts of him each time I cleared the plates and knives. Or a cigarette burn on the upholstered chair, some permanent scar to show that he'd been here. Instead, there's this fourfold, translucent, paper souvenir that will degrade and fade with air and time. His cup's imprint tinted by overflow and what might be the gray smudge of an ash, proof of his presence, his breath that I can hold.
That was memorable.
I like what Kathy said though, because now I'm thinking of everything as ekphrastic, and I'm just like, oh yes, that was a work of art. My dad's coffee cup stain. Everything is now. I love it.
Yeah, I know the first show you did a lot about your dad. And
Yeah, because there's a whole book about it. So it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to do stuff about my dad. And this one is called Photograph of a Woman Looking at His Jellyfish. So it's basically a double ekphrastic poem. This one is actually ekphrastic. So it's about a picture of a woman looking at a piece of art at his exhibition. And this is a painting of one of his jellyfish. So you can sort of see it. It's quite, it's, you can't see how 3D it is, but it's very textured with glue. He uses a lot of glue and epoxy and things to build up his painting. Photograph of a woman looking at his jellyfish. He must have taken it from the hip. A quick click. She didn't see him standing there. The canvas is out of focus. In focus, in black and white, the back of a woman stood between the piece and him. Her hair, I guess, is brown, hangs loose around her shoulder blades, some tucked beneath a maybe blue canvas strap. A few dead strands swirl down her sweater, past her branded leather belt and baggy jeans, and float to the golden over-lacquered floor, where later, an unseen janitor collects them with the dust and lint from other guests. She's reaching out with her left hand. Her thumb and index finger are extended to touch the still wet-looking glue, or yank the frame right off the wall. A quarter of her face exposed, lips just parted, she breathes it in. The scene is more unfocused than normal. Details that aren't there aren't even there. The orange and yellow jellyfish glow through grayscale, the blurry shot, their background circumstance, and Dad's abstraction. They sting the woman's cheek.
Nice.
So again, just the idea of art glowing through all of its challenges in this case, it was a black and white photograph of a sort of neon painting that you couldn't tell that it was neon. And the fact that it still manages to sort of get there, it still manages to have the impact that he intended it to have. The jellyfish stung her.
Yeah. Nice. Very nice. Hey, Kathy, I just sent you a message.
Hmm.
So I don't know how you spell what you call that type of poetry or whatever experience. So is it ecstatic or
Ekphrastic.
okay? Okay.
It's Greek. Whoops, that was supposed to be an E at the beginning. So it's it auto-corrected on me. The concept is ekphrasis,
Yeah.
and then the adjective is ekphrastic.
So EKP. Okay, I'll grab it. Okay.
And it's really popular over the last decade or two, but I had been teaching half my career before I ever heard of it. It just kind of became popular all of a sudden, I feel like.
And just explain a little bit, what's more of the nature of what that actually is?
Well, I'll defer also to Tracy, but recreating one work of art in another medium of art. So
Okay.
you start with visual art and move to poetry, but you can also
Yeah.
start with dance or whatever medium you want.
Okay, great.
Yep. So more specifically, ekphrastic poetry just means poetry that addresses art, any kind of art, like Kathy said. A lot of it addresses visual art. They're considered sort of sister arts, poetry and painting, because they're both done, they're just there to be looked at, except for performed poetry. But the idea is that if you're reading a poem, it's sort of static. And if you're looking at a piece of art on the wall, it's static. Whereas dance and theater and singing, etc., are all sort of have this idea of movement. So when you're like poetry and painting sort of have that relationship where they really suit each other, because you have this opportunity to write something that will eventually be static and reflect this thing that is already static. So they're just sort of mirrors for each other.
Absolutely. And the reason why I mentioned dance is in my haiku sonnet collection, my chapbook, 10 of the poems are actually written from episodes of dance. So
That's amazing. And I'm very jealous of that because I've recently, Jersey has recently gotten a national ballet company. In fact, they're performing this evening. And I can't write about it. Like, I find it really, really hard to write about. So I admire that you're able to do it. I just, because I've never written about it before, maybe, but I find that I just lean on cliches, which is so annoying. But I want to read those, so I'm going to have to get that chapbook.
thank you.
I really want to see what you've done. I find it impossible.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
nice.
I really want to read those. Love a haiku.
I'll send both your emails out to you after the show,
That'd be great.
Perfect.
and you can be
Swap.
ecstatically ekphractic,
Ekphrastic.
almost spastic, and trying to get elastic. I think I'm rhyming. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, Tracy, you got me wound up now. You got me wound up. I'm ready.
Are you ready? What are you going to do? Write some more
I don't
poems?
know. I don't
You're
know.
going to write some poems?
Probably last week I did a lot.
Good.
Padrico Tuma, it was so great. And I took this poetry workshop, I don't know, in the spring, and it was with 8 poets and me. So, 8 professionals and a rookie. And the teacher, who was nice, you know, here's a prompt, here's a prompt. Well, I basically did all the homework in advance, but then it wasn't right. So all of a sudden I'm like, oh, the clock's ticking. I got to write some stuff. So I'll just tell you, it was, yeah, forget about your ballet stuff. This was excruciating. That was like sweat rolling off my head. I was trying to, color the Zoom thing so people couldn't see me sweating. Uh, but Padraig Otuma, went through some the pantoum and a bunch of other styles. Uh, we wrote things. He just gave us so much, it's almost like permission to edit and just do what you do. And for me, it was like this total relief. And I will tell you, we had open mic on Friday morning, and 40 people went up to the mic and read their work. And I'm teary eyed because it was so blow away good from the people in the program. It was just so amazing. But part of it is he just gave permission and insight and some tools to write. So for me, it was like, oh my God, yes, I'm going to be writing. Maybe not this afternoon, but uh, very soon.
Well, I think that you need to think about who's going to do the interview on the day that you are the poet on this show.
Indeed.
We'll have to, yeah, I think we'll have to have Trace. We'll have to have our rogues gallery of poets grill me sufficiently. You know what I usually say, Kathy? Don't Don't
Yeah.
let the poet off easy. So that's going to probably come back and haunt me. And yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be in Idemic, whatever jail. I'll be in the rhyming universe. Yeah. Tracy's
I
going,
think
don't
that's a
write now.
great
Don't write
idea.
any poems out. What's that?
I think having us all, turn the tables back on John is a great idea for when he gives his poetry performance.
I love it.
Yeah, there was a. I'll give you the first two lines. I wrote a bunch of stuff after I left Palu. So this one was, I was dead before I knew I was dying. I was led before I knew they were lying.
Mm,
That's how the poem starts.
fascinating.
And it was like, yeah, it was like, okay, you got me really pissed off. Here I go. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear where that goes.
Yeah, there's some other lines. Yeah, part of it is I did the first line always rhymes with the first line of the prior a little, yeah. So no, it's good. I wrote yeah, I'll send some out to you. So no, I was agitated and I wrote a bunch of poems. Then I felt myself, I don't get pissed off that much. So how am I going to write again? Don't worry, I found other inspirational issues to kind of no, it was I'll send you some things. It was good. It was so refreshing. Part of it was I needed to, like, I have this phlegm that's coming out. I needed to get something out. And by getting it out, you kind of start to resolve and lower the intensity. So that was 2017. So yeah, I like that. Turn the tables on me, Kathy. That's a good one. Well, yeah, I think a few people suggest that. Why don't you read it? I'm like, let's see. Let me see. I got the bulletproof vest on, got the helmet, I got the oh boy. Let's see what time it is. 1:20. So uh Tracy, besides the prose, are you working on another poetry book
Well,
or
I'm still doing the translations of Baudelaire.
oh
So
yeah,
that,
that's right, yeah.
yeah, that's ongoing. It was supposed to be published this year, but it's not going to be published till next year, because I need to finish them. But that's a great joy. It's an absolute pleasure to do those translations. It's a gift to have the opportunity to do that. And then, yeah, like I said, so I'm teaching these ekphrastic poetry workshops at this art gallery in Jersey called it's Art House Jersey, a Capitol House. And each time they have an exhibition, they ask me to come and I do a workshop on a Tuesday. And then the poets have a chance to revise their poems. And then we perform them on a Friday and have like a poetry sort of happy hour where it's open to the public and anyone can come. And we sort of walk around the gallery. And as we walk around the gallery, the poets will read their poems that relate to certain pieces of work.
Wow.
And it's really, really nice. So I've been writing for that. I don't just teach the workshop. I take the workshop. So I take my own prompts and do my own assignments for that as well. So that's been really good. And don't ask me to read any of those because they're in a folder and
No, that's great. It's just great to hear about,
it's not
Yeah.
here.
it's such an interactive experience.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great experience, and I'm really grateful to the organizers to let me do that. And it gives people a new way of looking at artwork, and they sort of see it through the poet's eyes and through whatever slant that we've put on it for that week. And it's been really great. So I'm gonna hopefully keep doing that.
And how often does that happen?
So their exhibitions change about every 6 weeks. So it's every 6 weeks.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So just talk about the Baudelaire book.
Okay.
Why that's so important to you.
Um, I mean, I've started translating French poetry just for fun. I don't know, probably again 20, 30 years ago. And I found the Baudelaire poems the most interesting to translate because his philosophy is exactly like mine, which is le fleur de mal means, making flowers out of like dirt or it's called, people translate it as flowers of evil, but I think it's really like making beauty out of shit. And that idea of, flowers can bloom in the pavement, flowers can bloom in, in a pile. So that whole idea of so he has a poem called The Sun, which basically says, the sun shines on everything. It doesn't just shine on the king, it also shines on, the homeless people and the prostitutes. So it's just this idea that everything is material for poetry. And it was sort of very innovative at the time to say that. And so I love translating it. I love translating it from the point of view of um, contemporary 40-something woman writing these poems instead of Baudelaire writing them.
And when did he write those poems?
When did he write them? That's a
Yeah.
really good question. So I was just thinking that. What exactly is the date of Fleur de Mal? Though I'm going to look it up because I don't know it off the top of my head. I don't know the exact date. So
Yeah,
let's
your
look.
face just got totally illuminated. So I
No, I
thought
knew.
finally
There it is, because
season four theme just came
I'm
alive.
in Google. So yeah, it was 1840s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was sort of a revolutionary idea at the time. Oh yes, okay, I can give you another poem.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you for asking, Wendy.
I know.
Yeah, we are running out of time.
We're chit-chatting too much today.
We are having a chat. Well, it's a poetry chat. Okay, so this one is again about lights in the dark. So it's called Self-Isolation, and obviously it's about COVID. And when I got this chest cold, I thought it was COVID again. I've got 4 of my tutors out with COVID right now. It's going around in Jersey. I know it's going around the States because I was just there and we had to mask up at the hospital. So again, it's appropriate to read a COVID poem. Self-isolation. Our bedroom window's not a window seat. Well, not supposed to be a window seat, but I'm straddling the oversized sill, one foot holding the sash open to salty night air, the other firmly planted on the linen chest. This doesn't count as being outside, right? A passing bus runs over seaweed pods that have washed up. They pop like firewood. I'd love to feel them burst between my toes. Across the road, the black waves flicker from street lamps and fairy lights along the wall. Dog walkers 3 floors down don't notice me, but one woman looks up, then triple takes, like she's apprehensive I might jump. One time I did lean out a little bit too far. When my ash hadn't snuffed out, I poured a splash of wine to douse the spark. My husband's hotel room has the same view, just further down the street. The south wall of the building's visible from where I perch. His reading lamp shines through closed orange drapes and adds an ember to the blazing sea. So there's your spark in the dark.
Yeah, there we go.
Just the idea of being isolated and alone. And my husband had to move out because if he wanted to go to work, he couldn't be living in the same house as me. So when I tested positive, he moved to a hotel down the street. And it was just the idea that I could still see his hotel, I could still see the light, and it just sort of gave you that connection, even though we were, not in the same house for a week.
Yeah. So one more, and then we'll close out today. It's been really a tremendous pleasure.
Oh, it's always awesome. I really appreciate the opportunity to read. I hadn't. Oh, look, yeah, here's a cute little one. It's called Our Neighbor Put Summer Out with the Trash, and I think you'll understand why it fits with the theme. Our neighbor put summer out with the trash. The beach chair straddles the black garbage bag that's bursting from the lidless, rusted can. It's a squat chair the kind where your seat's in the sand, and you inevitably end up getting soaked from choosing a spot too close to cool your feet. Frayed nylon sprays neon strings, green, orange, pink, and yellow, onto the otherwise glass fault landscape of the quiet, drizzled autumn street.
Hmm.
So those are your little sparks in the dark.
Yeah, I was
A
going to
little-
say, we got a lot of, Kathy, we got a lot of sparks this week.
Little busted
We have
lounge
to,
chair.
we're going to have to start a sparks chart, measure them all and, see how high. I'm going to know. Traci, it has been an extreme pleasure to have you kick off season 4. It's great. And I appreciate your being flexible to just read other poems and just kind of go with the flow.
I really appreciate the opportunity to kick off season 4, and I look forward to hearing everyone else and being a part of the discussion over the next few weeks.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Thank you. And I appreciate you showing us the image outside your window.
It's getting dark now. It's 6:30 here.
Yeah.
And I've gotten
yeah.
progressively darker as this conversation has gone, you see.
Yeah, I was going to say, except when you Googled up and then you were illuminated. Yeah. All right. Traci, thank you very much. Wendy?
Thanks
I
so
think
much,
we're-
everyone.
yeah.
Thanks, Wendy.
Yeah.
Traci,
Traci, talk to you soon.
your work is amazing. So grateful. Thank you so much.
So much. I can't wait to hear everyone else.
Yep. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.